Buddhist philosophy is intensely practical and in a very physical way. In this podcast, I'm going to explain how you can use your hot yoga practice to deepen your understanding of Buddhist ideas. And we'll start with Buddha's invitation for free thinking. The Kalama Sutta relates a discussion between the Buddha and some of the peoples in a district of northeast India. In it, the Buddha encourages them to think for themselves in a reasonable way. And what follows isn't a translation. For some reason, translations tend to use a kind of biblical language. I've opted for a more contemporary presentation. So it goes something like, do not believe something just because you keep hearing it, or just because it's tradition, or if really it's just a rumour, or just because it's in a scripture. Don't believe something if there's no evidence, or just because everyone takes it as true all the time without ever really checking, or just because it sounds reasonable. Don't believe something just because people have pondered it for a long time, or just because the person telling you seems very clever, or even just because the person telling you is recognised as a teacher. Research, inquire, and think for yourself. When you can justify that a teaching is good and won't lead you or others to harm, when you can see that wise people praise the teaching, when it's clear to you that following the teaching leads to benefit and happiness for everyone, then stick to it and follow the teaching very carefully. And this is very applicable. In Yogafurie classes, we often teach simple sequences, and the teacher will call attention to key body actions. So follow as closely as you can, and of course never hesitate to ask questions if you need to. And ask yourself, do you agree with the body action descriptions? If you follow carefully, do you feel more stable? Can you open your body? Over time, as classes come and go, are you stronger? Can you breathe more easily? People often report very big changes, and I think the secret is to stay present, stay with what the teacher is saying, and use your own spirit of free inquiry. The Buddha taught that people are reborn over and over again until they bring about a very particular transformation in themselves. And it's a question that people have often pondered. Do we have a soul? Are we reborn? Perhaps surprisingly, I think a hot yoga practice can help inform on this. But it's such a big topic, we just need to take a bit of a step back and look more generally at what it is that we're rebirthing all the time. So we come to class after class and we'll repeat the postures over and over again in an effort to get them just right. Or put another way, we're often repeating the same mistakes, and it takes quite a long time to spot it and change ourselves. So doing things wrong without even noticing is a bit like a default, and it's what we do and carry on doing until we spot the error or somebody points it out. And this kind of unconscious action, this unedited repetition of the same old, is this concept of samsara. Until we actively notice and change ourselves, we'll keep living the same kind of life, just like we keep practicing the same postures in the same way. The Buddha went as far as to say that it's not just the same kind of life, but in fact life after life after life. Yogafurie hot yoga teachers in particular will explain the details of what you're doing in class. And so again, tune in, use your free thinking and reflect. Getting things not quite right really is a golden opportunity every time we spot it, because it's from this that we have a start point to do things differently. Okay, finally I'd like to turn our attention to the iconic Buddhist phrase, form is emptiness. And you might ask yourself, well, what does that mean? And of course you can look it up on the web. There's a lot of hardcore philosophy out there. I'm not sure that that's really the way to find the answer. Again, for me, physical movement can make this feel real, rather than trying to just get your head around it. And in this sense, your Yogafurie hot yoga practice will be your classroom. But anyway, I'll explain what I mean. Our teachers do describe the postures very clearly, as I've already said, but they'll flow the postures one into the other to take you through lots of movement transitions. And the final pose can seem very important, but of course so is the way that we move into it and out of it, because we'll be looking for alignment and support through the body all the time. In the end, I think we conclude that every point in the movement chain is just as important as the final pose. You could also say that there isn't really a final pose anyway, because the whole series just flows and flows and flows. I guess there are times when we slow the movement down and the teacher will say something in Sanskrit, kind of label that moment. But you could go as far as to say there aren't really any postures. There's just movement and labels. So if you can see where I'm going with this, form, which in this example is postures, is empty. There aren't really any poses. It's just this continuous movement with a few pauses here and there. In this way, we play with emptiness every time we practice here at Yogafurie. We'll build up a body shape as if it was separate from all the movements before it and after it, and then we'll destroy the shape and move into another to remind ourselves that there are no fixed and independent things, really. I'll leave you to think about the opposite side of that equation. We've seen how form is emptiness. Why don't you have a think about how emptiness can be form? And of course that one can properly cook one's noodle. Anyway, thanks for listening.